Hey folks, Granite Wheeler here. As you saw in my last video, the spider gears that came with the Eaton 2-pinion E-locker in my Fusion4x4 Dana 60 failed. I didn't realize that I had a 2-pinion E-locker until I broke it. It was then that I learned that it's probably not a good idea to run a 2-pinion E-locker with 40-inch tires. I've heard that Eaton is even having problems with their newer ELocker 4, which has 4 pinions. The rumor I heard is that you can't even buy them at the moment because any units that were still on dealer shelves were recalled by Eaton. There was no way that I was going to put the same thing back in. While I don't question the strength of a good 4-pinion air locker, my goal was to keep the simplicity of an E-locker while avoiding the added complication of air lockers. When I was looking around for ELocker options, I discovered that there are relatively few options available. At first I thought that I had to choose between an Eaton or an aux locker. The aux locker employs a slow-moving servo along with a cable that is susceptible to binding or getting smashed on a boulder where it pokes into the diff cover. In my quest for the perfect E-locker, I found all of the Tony Pellegrino videos on YouTube touting the benefits of the Auburn Select-A-Loc E-locker. They were music to my ears, and I heard all of the things that I wanted to hear. Heavy duty, military grade, enabled on the fly. There's even one of his videos linked on the Auburn Gear website. I was sold, hook, line, and sinker. I had to get one. Then the problem became in trying to find one. The first thing I did was to give Genrite a call. As enthusiastic as they are on the Auburn lockers, they don't actually sell just the differentials. Genrite specs Auburn lockers in the Curry axle assemblies that they order for their own builds. The next thing I did was to call Curry, only to find out that they also do not sell just the lockers. So I finally got into contact directly with Auburn to figure out which specific locker that I needed, along with a few dealer names where I could purchase one. The 2 part numbers that will work in my Fusion4x4 Dana 60s with 35 splines are numbers 545022 and 545023. These same part numbers should also fit the Ultimate Dana 60 crate axles. Part number 545022 is for gear ratios 410 and numerically lower. Part number 545023 is for gear ratios 456 and numerically higher. What I ended up learning is that the offset of the carrier flange is the only difference between the 2 parts, and that both part numbers assume that you are using standard or thin cut ring gears. What I also learned is that the thick cut ring gears can be found for the 513 gear ratio, for example. What this means is that I could potentially use either part number as long as I purchase a new thick cut ring and pinion for the 545022 part with my 513 gear ratio. The thicker ring gear makes up for the difference in offset. I've been told that while it will not improve ring and pinion strength, the ring gear itself will be a little bit heavier. The other tidbit that I learned is that you probably want to use the 545022 in the front differential regardless of your gear ratio, because there are more ring and pinion options available in a thick gear version for the high pinion reverse rotation front differential. Even with the part numbers figured out, there were still issues trying to source the parts. As it turned out, both part numbers have been on back order for some time. The story I got from Auburn is that one of their machines responsible for making one of the internal parts was down and needed repair. After weeks turned into months, the story became that they were looking into outsourcing for the parts. I'm not sure what the current status is, but I got lucky and found the locker I was looking for sitting on a dealer shelf in Southern California. They shipped it quickly and it arrived today. Let's have a closer look. It seems like the box was manhandled quite a bit, and it may have been sitting on a dealer shelf for some time before finding its way to me. It's a heavy unit at around 50 pounds and could have been packaged better by Auburn. The box has been opened before, but most of the parts seem to be here. Someone must have used the incorrect pronouns because the installation manual and stickers are all bent out of shape. The wiring harness was not very well protected either. Let's get it out of the box so we can have a closer look. The Auburn locker is noticeably larger and heavier than the Eaton 2-pinion. At around 50 pounds for just the locker without a ring gear or carrier bearings, it will be a little challenging getting the assembly into and back out of the differential housing when setting it up. When I purchased the locker, the dealer advised me that these differentials are known to be a tight fit and that I may need to modify the differential housing a little bit in order to make this thing fit. He also suggested to RTFM because this is covered in the installation guide. Though I didn't remove it, the electromagnet appears to be well made and spins freely on the carrier. It's a different design than the Eaton and does not need to rotate 1/3 turn in either direction to engage. The locker also includes these two locking tabs to secure the electromagnet inside the housing and prevent it from spinning around. Without the locking tab in place, the electromagnet should be free to rotate and not come into contact with the housing at all. You just need to install whichever one of them fits under one of the carrier bearing bolts. The carrier bearing bolt you want to use is the bottom one on the same side of the carrier as the electromagnet. To maintain maximum strength and maximum performance for their lockers, Auburn designs them to use all of the available space within the differential housings. As already mentioned, it may become necessary to grind away some of the metal from inside of the differential housing to accommodate the larger carrier and electromagnet. These are the areas where I expect to have clearance challenges. Grease or paint can be used between the locker and the housing to help determine where it is coming into contact. Alright, let's unpack the wiring kit and get this locker connected for a quick and dirty test. The locker power cable seems to be well constructed. At 10 feet long, however, it's too short to use on a 4-door JKU Jeep. The cheap locker engagement switch didn't survive the trip. It got crushed by the weight of the locker and doesn't function at all. Okay, now I have it wired to an old battery and a 35-year-old pump starter. It seems to work. Let's shove in an axle. This will confirm that I ordered the correct part number to work with my 35 spline axles. And having an axle installed will help to better demonstrate how this locker functions. You would think that I'm better at inserting shafts at this point in life. Once I got the shaft inserted, the locker worked well. It engages and disengages with lightning speed, and I hope that it works as well on the trail as it does in this test. I'm very impressed with how the engagement works so far, and I'm really looking forward to putting this new locker to the ultimate test out on the trail. That's all I have for now. Hope you like this first look at my new Auburn Select-A-Loc ELocker. I have a lot of work ahead of me before my Jeep finds its way back to the trail, and this locker install is just part of it. Once it's installed, I'll put out a follow-up video. See you on the trail. I'll leave you with this RTFM moment. The installation guide that came with the locker is comprehensive and can be downloaded online from Auburn Gear's website. I've highlighted some of the details here for you. Use 80 weight 90 non-synthetic gear oil. If you have axles with C-clips, you may need to modify your axle shafts. You will likely need to trim your differential housing to clear the locker. Don't forget to install the retainer bracket on the carrier bearing bolt. This locker can be engaged on the fly. Peace out.